Welcome, dear listener. Take a slow breath and allow this winter night to unfold around you. As the world outside grows quiet and distant, because this story begins on a night when the snow refused to stop falling. It drifted gently at first, almost lovingly touching the earth like a promise of rest, and then hour by hour, it thickened, covering the mountains, the trees, and every forgotten path, until the land seemed to disappear beneath a soft, endless white silence. The sky hung low and heavy, as if time itself had slowed. Deep within those mountains, hidden from roads and memories, stood a small wooden cabin wrapped in snow, its roof bowed under the weight of winter, its walls dark and weathered yet alive with warmth from within. Two windows glowed softly against the cold night, shining like patient eyes, waiting to be noticed. Inside the cabin, a fireplace burned steadily, its flames slow and golden, casting long shadows that danced gently across wooden walls. Each crackle of the fire felt alive, like a quiet heartbeat echoing through the room, reminding the cabin that it was not alone. The air carried the scent of pine, old timber, and something harder to name, perhaps memory, perhaps longing, perhaps the quiet ache of moments left unfinished. This cabin had once been full of life, laughter, and warmth, voices that filled the nights with meaning. But time had passed, seasons had changed, and the door had remained closed year after year, while snowstorms came and went, until tonight, when the door finally opened and someone stepped inside. A man stood near the fire, his coat heavy with snow, his breath visible as he slowly removed his gloves and warmed his hands before the flames. His face was tired, not from the cold, but from years of carrying something unresolved. He stared into the fire as if it might speak, as if the flames held answers buried deep within their glow. Outside, the wind howled fiercely, rushing through the trees like a restless spirit. But inside the cabin, the fire whispered softly, offering comfort without questions. The wooden floor creaked gently beneath his steps as he moved closer to the hearth, feeling the warmth slowly seep into his bones and into places he had long kept cold. The cabin seemed to breathe with him, holding his silence without judgment. And as the snow continued to fall endlessly outside, the fire burned brighter, as if recognizing him, as if it had been waiting through countless winters just for his return. And in that moment, the night felt heavy with meaning, as though this was not simply shelter from a storm, but the beginning of a journey back to something lost, something fragile, something still alive within him. As the fire settled into a calmer rhythm, its glow reached farther into the room, revealing details long hidden by darkness. Shelves lined with dust-covered books, a chair pulled close to the hearth, and beside it a small wooden table worn smooth by time, and there, resting quietly as if placed by careful hands, lay an envelope, its paper faded, its edges softened by years of waiting. The sight of it slowed the man's breath and tightened his chest, because even before touching it, he knew what it was. He had imagined this moment many times, yet never believed it would truly arrive. His fingers trembled as he picked it up, feeling its delicate weight, and the fire responded with a gentle crackle, as though acknowledging what was about to unfold. He sat down close to the flames, letting their warmth steady his shaking hands before slowly opening the envelope. The paper made a soft sound as it unfolded, and in that sound, the years between then and now seemed to collapse. The words written inside were simple yet heavy, filled with love, hope, and quiet pain. They spoke of winters spent waiting, of nights listening to storms, while believing that one day the door would open again. The letter carried memories of shared silence, gentle laughter, and promises whispered while snow fell outside these very walls, each word pressed against his heart, awakening emotions he had buried deep. To survive, the fire grew brighter, its flames moving slowly, like they were breathing with him, casting warm light across his face as tears filled his eyes, yet no shame followed, because the fire offered only warmth, not judgment. Outside, the storm continued, but inside the cabin time stood still as the past returned, not as a wound, but as a presence asking only to be felt. The letter spoke of forgiveness, not demanded, but freely given, of love that had waited without anger, and hope that had survived even absence. The man closed his eyes, holding the letter close as the fire crackled softly beside him. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by warmth, memory, and falling snow, he realized that coming back was never about the cabin alone. It was about facing what had never truly left him. And as the fire continued its gentle song, the night wrapped itself around the cabin, holding both the man and his memories as one. As the fire continued its gentle song beside him, the man remained seated for a long while, holding the letter close to his chest, until its warmth felt less like paper and more like a living memory. And when he finally opened his eyes, the cabin seemed different, not changed, but awake, as if the walls, the beams, and the quiet corners had all been listening patiently, waiting for this return. He slowly rose from the chair and walked toward the window, each step soft against the wooden floor. And when he pulled back the curtain, the world outside revealed itself in layers of falling snow. The flakes drifted slowly, endlessly, each one unique, yet disappearing the moment it touched the ground, and watching them stirred something deep within him, because they reminded him of moments once lived and lost, moments that felt important, then vanished without warning. He remembered standing at this same window years ago, watching snowfall beside someone who believed in forever, someone who laughed softly and spoke of simple dreams. While the fire warmed their backs, the memory came not sharply, but gently, like a hand resting on the shoulder. And for the first time, he did not turn away from it. He let it stay. The fire crackled behind him, steady and patient, filling the cabin with a sound that felt like protection. And as he stood there listening, he realized how much this sound had been missing from his life, not the noise, but the presence, the constancy, the way it filled silence without demanding attention. He moved back toward the hearth and sat on the floor, close to the flames, wrapping himself in an old wool blanket that still carried a faint familiar scent. The warmth spread slowly through him, reaching places untouched for years. Outside, the storm softened, the wind less angry, now more distant, as if even the night had decided to rest. The fire reflected in his eyes, flickering like thoughts moving freely at last, and memories continued to surface. Winter mornings filled with quiet joy, shared cups of tea, laughter that required no reason, the comfort of knowing someone was near, even in silence. He realized how fear had once driven him away, how silence had grown too loud, and how distance had seemed easier than staying. Yet here, now surrounded by warmth and falling snow, he felt no urge to run. The cabin held him firmly, but kindly, as if reminding him that it had never let go, that some places and some feelings do not fade simply because time passes. The fire popped softly, sending sparks upward, and he watched them rise and disappear, mirroring the snow outside. And in that small moment, he understood that loss does not erase love, it only changes the way it lives within us. The cabin breathed softly, the fire whispered steadily, and his heart began to slow, matching their rhythm, allowing warmth to replace regret, allowing memory to exist without pain. And as the night deepened and the snowfall continued, the man remained there by the fire, no longer searching, no longer resisting, simply present as the winter cabin and its living flames wrapped him in a quiet promise that he did not need to be whole, Yet he only needed to stay and listen as the night grew deeper and quieter. The fire became the center of everything, its steady glow filling the cabin with a living warmth that felt aware and present, and the man remained seated close to it, watching the flames move slowly. As if guided by unseen breath, he noticed how the fire never rushed, never hesitated. It simply existed fully in each moment, and this calm strength drew him, in reminding him of something he had forgotten: how to stay without fear, how to be still without needing escape. The fire had burned through countless winters alone, listening to storms pressing against the walls, holding warmth for no one, yet never fading, and that realization settled heavily yet gently in his chest. Because it mirrored his own waiting, his own endurance, he reached out and added another log to the hearth, and the flames responded immediately, growing brighter, wrapping the wood in warmth with quiet acceptance. And in that exchange, he felt something loosen inside him, a belief perhaps that it was too late, or that some absences could never be forgiven. The fire crackled softly as sparks lifted and vanished into the chimney, and he imagined all the words he had never spoken, all the moments he had carried silently, rising with them and disappearing into the night outside. The snow slowed further, falling now in soft, unhurried waves, as if the world itself was breathing more easily. The cabin felt warmer, smaller, safer, like a shelter. Not just from the cold, but from the weight of years. He leaned back against the chair, closing his eyes, letting the sound of the fire wash over him, and memories came again. But this time they did not hurt. They passed like gentle images, smiles, shared quiet evenings. The simple comfort of being understood without explanation. He realized then that the fire had always been here, holding these moments within its walls, waiting patiently without resentment. And for the first time, he understood that forgiveness does not always arrive with words. Sometimes it arrives as warmth, sometimes it arrives as silence. He opened his eyes and looked around the cabin, noticing how the shadows danced softly along the walls, no longer threatening, but familiar like old companions. And he felt gratitude, not sharp or overwhelming, but steady and deep gratitude for this place, for this night, and for the fire that had waited without asking anything in return. He reached into his coat pocket and removed the folded letter, once more holding it gently before placing it into the flames. Not to erase it, but to release it. The paper curled slowly, the words glowing briefly before turning into embers, and as the fire accepted it, the cabin felt lighter, as if a long-held breath had finally been released. The flames settled back into their calm rhythm, and the man sat quietly watching them, understanding now that some fires do not burn to destroy, they burn to carry what we can no longer hold. And in that understanding, peace arrived, softly filling the cabin and his heart alike as the winter night continued its gentle watch outside. As the final hours of the night unfolded, the cabin grew even quieter, wrapped in a deep, comforting stillness. And the man moved slowly to lie down near the fireplace, pulling the blanket closer as the warmth surrounded him completely. The fire continued, its gentle crackling steady and reassuring, like a promise kept. The walls of the cabin seemed to lean inward protectively, holding the moment, while outside the snow fell softly, covering every path, every past mistake, every sharp edge of the world. He listened to the rhythm of the flames and felt his breathing match their pace, slow, calm, unburdened for the first time in years. There was no urge to think ahead, no need to revisit what had already been released. There was only this warmth, this sound, this quiet presence. The cabin felt alive, yet restful, like it understood exactly what was needed. The firelight flickered gently across the ceiling, creating moving patterns that felt almost like dreams. beginning to form, and as his eyes grew heavy, he felt safe not because everything was solved, but because nothing needed to be. The winter night held him without condition. The fire whispered without words, and the cabin offered rest without expectation. And in that space between waking and sleep, he understood something simple and true. That some places remember us even when we forget ourselves, that warmth can wait patiently. And that peace does not always arrive loudly, sometimes it comes softly. Like snow settling on earth, like fire glowing in darkness, like sleep finally finding you. When you are ready, and as the flames continued their endless song, the man drifted into rest, knowing he was no longer lost, knowing he was home.